Hi, guys. Welcome to Concerning Cremlings, a podcast where we dive deep into the vast expanse of Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere and beyond. Come on this journey with us as we read through the Cosmere in a year in publication order. We are starting with Elantris, Sanderson's first published work. In this episode, we're just going to kind of go through how we got into reading, how we got into the Cosmere, favorite book, favorite Cosmere book, that kind of stuff. You want to go first, Elliot?
Oh, okay. Which one do I do first?
How you got into reading?
Okay. I got into reading. Ooh, that's a hard one. I didn't think about
You want me to go first?
that.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. Okay, so I got into reading because my parents read aloud to us growing up, and so like they would read to us before bed. We would have like family reading time. We would listen to audiobooks, all that kind of stuff. So books were just very present in our home. And then when I was like first or second grade, I started reading like the American Girl doll books and like Little House on the Prairie, and weirdly got into like The Wizard of Oz. I read that book a lot. But my mom had this like required reading time for us, which was like an hour or like it depended on our age, but we just have time that we had to read a book. And so then eventually when I got into like middle school, I started really loving the Land of Stories book series, which is like a fantasy book series, and then obviously like Harry Potter, Aragon, Lord of the Rings, just so many different books that were like fantasy or sci-fi, like The Giver. And then when I got into high school, I was about like 10th grade, I think. And, or no, I was like ninth grade. And I was kind of like just like ran out of books that were like fantasy type books to read. And someone was like, "Hey, like, have you ever heard of Brandon Sanderson?" And I was like, "No, I hadn't." And so then I like went on his website and like looked at his stuff and I checked out The Way of Kings from the library. I remember like sitting down and like opening it and just being like, he was like, you need to get through the first like 40 pages and then like you'll be able to like keep going. So I get through the first 40 pages and I'm like, oh my God, I'm hooked. And so like I read like the book through over the next week. And then I like got Words of Radiance. I read that. Then I read Oathbringer. I just like, this is so amazing. And then I had to wait, obviously, for like Rhythm of War to come out like several years later. But yeah, so then I just read Mistborn, I read Elantris Warbreaker, and I just loved everything that he put out. So yeah, my favorite book, I have a lot, but I really enjoyed reading Jane Eyre last summer. That was liked it. I listened to it actually on audiobook, but it was really fun. I really enjoyed that story. And I'm trying to think of other ones. Like obviously I love Harry Potter and I love Stormlight Archive. So I would probably say my favorite Cosmere book is like Way of Kings, maybe, but that's like kind of a lot because it's like it depends on what mood I'm in and which one I want. But yeah, so that's generally kind of what I like to read. But yeah.
All right, me. Oh. Okay. There's a couple ways. So yeah, I guess I started reading the same way.
Yeah.
I I read when I was like a little kid, like elementary school. I really loved Harry Potter, and that's kind of all I read for a long time. And it was kind of a problem. And then probably around COVID times, actually, no, not COVID times. After, or
COVID
I don't know,
times.
like post COVID, I don't know. In COVID, I read a lot. I read a lot of, but those were a lot of bad books. But I read after COVID, I read Aragon, and I was like, whoa, this is fantasy. This is cool. And then I I started reading more, and then I honestly I it's kind of weird. I would say I only really got into like reading a ton like in May or June. Like like I've always said I was a reader, but I didn't read that much. I would like it took me it took me I think I read Dune from like June of last year to like September, and it was the only book I was reading. But like now I read a lot more because like what really got me into reading was probably Stephen King's The Dark Tower series, which I don't know. Stephen King is like a very thrilling author to read, but how I got into the Cosmere was Simon, who I don't even I even know how. I had like a semi-awareness of Brandon Sanderson for a long time, And then I was like, I want to read him because like he's a fantasy author, and I'm like, okay, he seems like he's good. So I stole Way of Kings from Simon, and I ruined his copy, and I read it.
Well, how did
And
you do it?
I
sorry,
mean, you
what?
can't read a book that size without ruining it.
Yeah,
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 it's
I
it's
used
kind of
to
hard not to.
yeah.
ravage books. I would I did not treat them well.
Wow, okay. Cardinal sin.
Um, and then I'd say some of my favorite books are I'm a really big C.S. Lewis fan, so like That Hideous Strength is my favorite book of all time. The Space Trilogy. Uh, I really like. Hold on, I'm looking at my bookshelf.
Yeah.
I I, I really like Gene Wolfe too. The Book of the Long Sun is probably my favorite sci-fi. Oh, I guess Space Trilogy is sci-fi too. I don't know. Book of the Long Sun is really good. Um, and then my favorite Cosmere. I haven't read a lot of. I'm the one who's got the least Cosmere experience out of everyone here. I've just read Stormlight and Mistborn, the first two Mistborn. But I would
What
say
what is Oathbringer your favorite? Is that what?
I think it was Oathbringer. Yeah, just my. It's not. I don't. I think I like Stormlight more than Mistborn. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's me.
Who wants to go next?
I'm gonna go next, I guess, just because.
Yeah.
Well, I'm Simon, and uh, I got into reading pretty similar as everyone else said so far. I've been raised on it. Our parents made us read when we were little, and so I've always been a reader, I guess. I remember in third grade just devouring Harry Potter and Land of Stories, and then soon after, like Percy Jackson and all that. So I've always read a lot. Um, but I would say what the moment or like the time where I really like started becoming like identifying as a reader is a couple years ago when my family moved. Um, I spent a lot of my time reading, and I started watching a lot. So um, I I was rereading The Lord of the Rings because that's like always been my favorite book. And so I started like watching a lot of YouTube videos about the lore and about theories and things like that. And I started to find some YouTube channels like Daniel Green and guys like him that just talked a lot about fantasy YouTube and or fantasy books like Lord of the Rings. And I started hearing about these guys like Robert Jordan and Brandon Sanderson and all these like fantasy authors that I'd never heard of, but sounded so cool. So I went and bought The Eye of the World and The Way of Kings, I think on the same day. And maybe it wasn't the same day, but it was around the same
Buying
time.
a book sight unseen is crazy too.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so I read those two books at like the same time, which is not a very good idea, but it worked for me, I guess. I fell in love with The Way of Kings. It was just like um, I don't know. It was like a revelation, I guess. And then reading Words of Radiance after that. And so it was really an amazing experience to discover a new love like that. So I think my favorite Brandon Sanderson book is probably The Way of Kings. It's just like my first love in a way. And so like I have very fond memories for it. And so yeah, over the next year and a half, I read all the Cosmere, I read all the Wheel of Time, I read a lot of other books that I really love now. Outside of the Cosmere, I think my favorite book is has to be The Lord of the Rings. It's just I know it's a story I've like lived with for like almost all my life. And I've reread it probably 3 or 4 times, and it's just like it's so beautiful. Besides Lord of the Rings, this last fall I read, not to sound pretentious, but I read Infinite Jest by David Foster Wallace, and that book was really impactful for me. It was super good, super pretentious, but super good. So that's me.
Have you guys heard of Infinite Jest? Do you
I
guys
have. I feel like
You have not?
you
yeah.
have no? Okay.
Is it
Oh,
Jest as in Jest?
Yeah.
yeah. Look it up.
It's it's yeah,
It's
it's a wild book.
Can I
It's
listen to it? Like, is there an audiobook? Because
you
I don't.
could you
So
could, but you would
I
have
don't
no idea what's happening. It's very difficult, which
it's
is why it's pretentious. It's like a lot of people, it's hard to read, and so people are like, oh, it's hard, therefore it's pretentious. Um, it
Well,
is pretentious, but I guess that makes me pretentious for loving it. So
So yeah, so I can go next. So I got into reading Brandon Sanderson from my sister and Esther,
yeah,
and
that one.
so she obviously was super adamant about this stuff, and I was intimidated by the size of the a 1,100 page book, especially the paperback version, which is incredibly smaller than the hardback. So I was just didn't really try it out, and so I wanted to stick to my Harry Potter, my Aragon series, Lord of the Rings, and which, for the record, if any fantasy series or sci-fi series has to have a map, language, or some kind of just symbols at the back of the book or something, that's a good book. And so I that's what I checked out Brandon Sanderson's books. I found a map, you know, for Way of Kings. I found, an explanation of some of the surges or some elements of his books that were key elements. And I was intrigued, and so I got through the first 50 pages after not understanding the prologue, completely misunderstanding that, and I got through that, and I was just completely hooked. And so after many sleepless nights, I finished the book, and I read the next one, until at that time, Oathbringer had been released, but Rhythm of War had not been released. So I was, pretty, you know, disappointed there wasn't a fourth book until, a couple years back. But yeah, I was a huge Harry Potter nerd, Aragon nerd, all that stuff. And then I read his other books like Mistborn, and other stuff. He has a huge genre that it's easy to get into. So yeah, that's me.
perfect. That was really good.
Yeah. Jonas, I like what you said about Brandon Sanderson being easy to get into. I
Yeah.
feel like that's a trademark of him. Like what he tries to do, he tries to write unique fantasy stories that are accessible to everybody, and I think that's a great thing. I don't know.
Jonas, did you say your favorite books?
I just mentioned the series that I enjoy.
Okay.
Favorite book would probably be um, probably Return of the King or The Two Towers
Okay.
and Lord of the Rings. I loved the sixth book, but Aragon, I kind of liked the entire series, but I also liked the third book of Aragon.
That one was good.
But
The singer?
I,
Brissinger, yeah.
but yeah, I'm not super opinionated on my favorite book because, you know, but I do think one of my favorite books probably be Way of Kings because that's what started it all.
I love how we all collectively agree on that one. Like, I think it shows too, because didn't he spend just like almost like 10 years writing it, like accumulated
Yeah,
time?
yeah.
Um,
He wrote the first
It's
draft in 2002.
it's
right.
really his best book.
Oh, it
Like,
totally is. I mean,
It's just so polished, I
yeah,
think. Which
yeah.
he put so
that's what
much
it
into
feels like.
it, and like I like, like you guys have all said, like he is easy to obviously start like reading his books and he like draws you in, especially if you start with Way of Kings. Like I feel like we've talked about how like the Final Empire, which is the first Mistborn book, like can be kind of like, oh, what's like going on, even more so than Stormlight. Because I feel like with Stormlight, you're like, oh, this is exciting. Like I don't know what's happening, but like I don't know. That one, I agree. His best work for
Yeah,
sure.
a lot of people do say they're like,
Yeah.
don't start with Stormlight. You're gonna be confused and stuff.
Mhm.
But like, I
Yeah.
started with Stormlight, and
I
it
think
was
I think
I think
there's
it de
many entries into the system.
yeah.
that's what we're saying. He's accessible. You could start anywhere you want. You can start with Elantris. I mean, we read half of Elantris this week, and
Mhm.
it was super easy to read. I read it in just a
Yeah.
couple days. You can start with Warbreaker. You can start with Mistborn,
Just
and there,
don't
and
start with
you could
what?
don't
Okay.
start with. Do not start with Wind and Truth.
Well, yeah, that's
Yeah,
also the
the
fifth.
movie
Yeah,
Any
if
sense?
you're gonna start any of the series, you can start at any of the
and
entry points, but you can't
can't just be
do the
like
second levels. So like he has multiple books and everything, so you can't just start at the fifth book of a series when you should be starting the first book of the
yeah,
series. But you could do a different series like Elantris, Mistborn,
What do you think about
White
Mistborn
Sands.
Era 2? Do you think you could start at like the Alloy of Law?
I think you
Uh,
Um,
could, but I don't think you
Technically, that's
should.
books.
I
That's
think
book
that
four
I
of
would
it.
not. I would highly like not recommend doing that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Unless you want to be
Unless
deciphering and all
Yeah,
that stuff.
it would
Unless you're
probably
a
be more difficult
psychopath.
to read.
yeah.
Although
Yeah,
I
they're
think there are I think there are people that read and enjoy the Wax and Ways books without reading the first three, which is weird, but
appreciated as much, like, but I guess people, I know I have a friend, she only read The Final Empire through, is it Hero of Ages? And that was all of Brandon Sanderson that she ever wanted to encounter. Sorry, all of the Cosmere that she ever wanted to encounter. She was like, yeah, I was good. I was good with just that. And then she went on to read just the Cytoverse and thought that was better. And I was like, no, it's not. Like the
but
Cytoverse is not his best work. Like,
Also, yeah, let's just clarify real quick. If you can go on his website, brandsanderson.com, but we can also just say real quick, he has a completely different universe with Skyward called the Cyberverse, and he also has a completely different universe with Steelheart and some other things like Arithmetus. But his main rule of thumb that he has set himself is if there's any version of Earth in his books,
mm,
then they are not part of the Cosmere, which is what we are reading and what we are explaining and navigating through. Just
yeah,
as a quick,
I highly doubt we'll go through anything beyond the Cosmere. We might, but it's
It's
just
it's a
what
huge
worth it?
genre, a huge.
we're dialed in on Cosmere.
So that's gonna be like the structure. I think Esther mentioned it a little bit, but we're gonna be going through. We're gonna be rereading, or well, reading for some of us, rereading for others. The Cosmere, like mainly publication order. We're gonna break up books a lot. So like we're breaking up Elantris in half.
And we'll link the schedule below. So yeah, you can look at that. It,
They can.
yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, and then we'll we
Moving
might
on.
be we might be like taking we might be like I'm bored of Brandon Sanderson, and so we
Yeah.
might if you see like we're probably not gonna do it halfway through books, but like
Yeah.
Yeah,
we
if we
We're
want to
might
a
read,
different type of
Yeah, we
fantasy.
have a list of like palette cleanser books, so to
right.
speak, that include like books that we've already mentioned, like Aragon or Harry Potter, just books that we want to
Uh,
reread, just to take a
what is
break.
it?
or read for the first time.
Yeah,
1984. I Am the
like
Messenger.
over 50.
Piranesi. The Giver series.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the light we cannot see
All the Cloud Cuckoo
as
Land.
well.
I put To Sleep in a Sea of Stars. Do you guys know what that is? That's Christopher, the guy who wrote Aragon, Christopher Paolini. That's his other book. One of his other. He wrote.
Well, I've
He's
never
been
read
writing like sci-fi. I have it right
Yeah,
here.
he's begun a science fiction universe
that.
called the Fractalverse. It's really fascinating actually.
Okay. Wait, when did
I
he come out?
when was this?
That was I think 2020.
Yeah,
I didn't even hear about it. That's
yeah.
crazy.
This came out in 2020,
Oh, wow.
and then
Okay.
I think he has another one called Fractal Noise, right?
Yeah. So yeah, we'll go beyond the Cosmere. Obviously, when we finish the Cosmere, we'll go on to other things. I think we've talked about possibly doing Wheel of Time or Dune or
I wanna do Dune, just like the first two.
I think we probably could do Dune in between Wheel of Time books if we needed to because
yeah,
it's big.
if
So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I mean, if we did
That's what
Wheel
I'm
of
thinking.
Time, we would need to take breaks between books anyway. So,
perfect.
but yeah,
Yeah.
Cosmere, we're
Exciting.
excited.
Make sure to hit that like and
No,
subscribe button.
no, no. Smash that like button. Hit the subscribe
Hit the
button.
subscribe
Let's
button.
leave a
All the
comment.
Murder,
alerts, you
murder
know.
the bells and whistles.
If you
Yeah.
hate
Yeah.
us, leave a comment. I'll personally debate you.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. We love hate comments because it gets us
Well,
attention.
Yeah,
leave us
it
constructive
feeds us into the
criticism.
algorithm. So you can find us at concerning Cremlings on Instagram as well.
Yep. Concerning Crumlings _, because we had to be special.
Make sure
We
that's on
don't we haven't
the underscore as
we
well.
haven't posted anything yet, but we will.
We will post something after this.
Maybe you'll have watched this and we have like 100 episodes and you're like, oh, they have so many Instagram posts, you know?
Yo, if you're like from 2026 or 2027,
Yeah.
leave a comment below. Like that's sick. You guys are in
Hey,
the future.
if you're from the now, if you're from February 22nd, 2025, also leave a comment because then you're gonna be
Yeah,
like, I was here at the beginning.
exactly. And so when we have like 1, 2
First,
million,
So when
come
you're the OGs right now. If you're watching
when
this,
we're
like,
collaborating with Mr. Beast,
wait, they can't.
Yeah,
How would they be watching this on
that's
February 22nd? They're not gonna
I'm
post this for
editing
like a
and
week.
release.
gonna
No,
get free
I'm
Tesla from
releasing this today.
No, you're not. Oh,
Yeah,
you
I
are?
am.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
because then we're gonna record after this. We're gonna record Elantris Part 1,
that
right?
episode 1 will be
Yeah,
next.
Yeah,
Okay.
I see.
we can
Okay.
edit that
Okay.
out if we
Okay,
want.
well,
But
Well, peace. We haven't.
oh,
yeah, because
also,
you
Or
can
we'll
I'm
keep
make
both
it.
my
holding.
beats.
Look at this. Wait,
Yeah, I like
I'm
that.
holding a puppy.
oh yeah, when they're like
Ah,
edit that in, I'm holding whatever. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just yeeted a puppy at
And
him.
you can find part 1 of Elantris right here.
Oh yeah. And part 1 of Monsters will be linked here.
Right
And
here.
Elliot's gonna put it right there. I'll put the book in Sam's hands and he'll put the link in my hands.
By the way, have you
And
ever
John's
realized?
Grayson.
All right. Okay, we
Also,
could.
I have a sick mustache.
Okay.
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 Oh,
But
thanks for watching episode 0 of Concerning Cremlings. We hope that you stay tuned and watch the rest of our stuff. Thank you.
subscribe, please.
Please.
Seriously,
I need
please.
food and
We're
water.
desperate.
I,
We're so
please,
desperate.
Fine.
We're so desperate.
Go on your other Google accounts and like it too, please.
please.
Yes. All of your YouTube accounts,
We
we
want to
know you
bring this
have.
to
We know
Mr.
you
Beast,
have burners.
please.
Plus one aura if you share this with other people.
Yeah.
All right.
Hey,
Peace.
bye. Thank you.
All right.